An incredible story of justice and hidden truths. The day a luxury dealership learned a lesson, a simple hoodie, a luxury showroom, and one jaw-dropping reveal. This is one of those real-life stories that people don't forget. When a car dealership manager misjudges a man who secretly owns it all, the hidden truth unfolds in the most unexpected way. Marcus Reed pulled into the parking lot of Prestige Motors, the flagship dealership he had recently acquired in sunny Scottsdale, Arizona. The desert heat shimmered off the sleek luxury vehicles parked out front, their polished exteriors glowing under the afternoon sun. The scene was set for what would soon become one of those incredible stories about justice and perception. He parked his modest SUV in an unmarked spot at the back, stepping out and taking the grand facade of the dealership. Marcus wasn't dressed for attention. Quite the opposite. A casual gray hoodie, slightly worn jeans, and sneakers made up his outfit for the day. But this wasn't just a choice of comfort. It was a test of hidden truths. He wanted to see how the business operated when no one knew the real story, that he was the new owner. As he entered, cool air conditioning wrapped around him, starkly contrasting the heat outside. The air carried the scent of leather and fresh wax, and rows of pristine cars sparkled under bright showroom lights. Employees near the front desk were engaged in friendly chatter, their laughter floating through the space. But as Marcus stepped inside, the energy shifted. Subtle glances, silent judgments, an unspoken assumption. Then, from across the showroom, she appeared. Linda Brooks, the dealership's manager, was a woman of precision. With her tailored blazer, polished heels, and clipboard tucked under her arm, she was the picture of authority. But she had no idea she was about to become part of one of those justice stories people would talk about for years. She approached him, professional but guarded. "Excuse me," Linda said, her tone cool. "Can I help you with something?" Marcus smiled, keeping his demeanor calm. "Just looking around," he replied, gesturing toward the luxury cars. Linda's gaze flickered from his hoodie to his sneakers, and something in her posture changed. A flicker of doubt, a moment of silent evaluation. "Are you shopping for a car?" she asked, her tone polite but edged with skepticism. Marcus nodded. "Something like that." Her lips pressed together. "Well, we cater to a very specific clientele. Most of our inventory requires pre-qualification. Perhaps I could recommend." Before she could finish, an employee called out to her, momentarily distracting her. But when her attention returned to Marcus, the polite mask slipped slightly. "You're assuming I'm not qualified?" Marcus asked, his voice calm but firm. She hesitated before replying. "I'm just trying to save you some time. These vehicles start at 6 figures." Marcus let the words hang in the air, then casually glanced at a sleek silver coupe, running a hand over the door handle. "Nice car," he mused. Linda forced a tight smile. "It is. Perhaps when you're ready for a serious inquiry, we can set up an appointment." Marcus chuckled and took a step back. "All right," he said, his eyes steady on hers. "How about you let me speak to the owner?" A flicker of confusion crossed her face, but she quickly recovered. "The owner doesn't just drop by for casual visits," she said firmly. Marcus pulled out his phone. "Then I'll give him a call myself." Silence fell over the showroom. Employees stopped mid-conversation. Even Linda's confident stance faltered slightly. Minutes later, the doors opened and Jonathan Hayes, the dealership's regional director, walked in. "Marcus." Jonathan greeted him warmly, extending a handshake. "Good to see you." Linda's face drained of color. Her clipboard trembled in her hands. Jonathan turned to her, his voice sharp. "Linda, I see you've already met Mr. Reed, the new owner of Prestige Motors." A heavy silence gripped the room. An uncomfortable, undeniable truth had been revealed. Linda stammered, I didn't know." Marcus smiled faintly. "Didn't know what?" "That someone like me could own this dealership." Linda opened her mouth, but no words came out. Marcus nodded, his expression unreadable but firm. "Let's gather everyone in the conference room," he said. "It's time we have a conversation about how things are run around here." What started as a normal day at a luxury dealership turned into one of those amazing stories about judgment, bias, and hidden truths. And for Linda, this wasn't just a moment of embarrassment. It was a wake-up call. The morning sun bathed the sleek glass exterior of Prestige Motors in a golden glow, highlighting the luxury showroom's grandeur. Inside, the air buzzed with quiet efficiency, employees preparing for the day, running through inventory and fine-tuning sales pitches for the affluent clientele that frequented the dealership. Among them was Linda Brooks, the showroom manager, a woman who prided herself on maintaining high standards. Dressed in a fitted blazer and heels, she exuded an air of authority, her clipboard tucked firmly under one arm. Linda had spent years refining her ability to assess potential buyers, distinguishing the serious ones from those who were merely window shopping. That morning, however, an unexpected guest walked in. Marcus Reed entered the showroom dressed in casual jeans, a hoodie, and sneakers, a stark contrast to the usual image of the customers Linda was accustomed to assisting. He strode in with an easy confidence, but the moment his presence was noticed, the atmosphere subtly shifted. Employees exchanged quick glances, the kind that spoke volumes without a word being said. Linda took it upon herself to intercept him. "Good morning," she greeted, her tone polite but distant. "Can I help you with something?" Marcus took a moment to scan the showroom before responding. "Just checking out the inventory." Linda gave him a practiced smile, though there was a flicker of skepticism in her eyes. "Are you looking for something specific? Some of our models require a pre-approval process before we discuss pricing." Marcus caught the undertone immediately. It wasn't outright dismissive, but it was enough to signal doubt about whether he belonged here. "I see," he said, nodding as if considering her words carefully. Then, he pointed toward a sleek black sports car on display. "How about that one?" Linda hesitated for a fraction of a second before composing herself. "That's one of our high-performance models," she said. "We typically arrange private viewings for serious buyers." Serious buyers. Marcus let the words settle, studying Linda's expression. He could see it, the subtle barrier she had placed between them. It wasn't blatant, but it was there. Instead of reacting, he decided to turn the conversation on its head. "Let's say I am serious," Marcus said, his voice calm. "What would you recommend for someone like me?" Linda straightened, her posture reflecting the certainty of someone who believed she had assessed the situation correctly. "I can show you some more accessible models," she said, reaching for a brochure from the nearby counter. "Perhaps something in a pre-owned range that better fits." She stopped mid-sentence. Marcus smirked slightly, catching her hesitation. "That better fits what?" Linda cleared her throat, regaining her composure. "Your lifestyle," she finished smoothly. Marcus exhaled, folding his arms. "You seem pretty confident in that assessment." Linda, sensing she was being tested, pressed on. "I've been in this business a long time," she said. "I can usually tell when someone is ready to buy and when someone is just browsing." Marcus nodded slowly. "Good to know." Before Linda could continue, the main entrance swung open and Jonathan Hayes, the regional director, entered the showroom. His presence alone commanded respect, and the moment his eyes landed on Marcus, his entire demeanor shifted. "Marcus," Jonathan called out with a broad smile. Linda blinked, confused. "Jonathan, good to see you," Marcus greeted, shaking hands with the executive. Jonathan turned toward Linda, his smile fading slightly. "I assume you've already met our new owner?" Linda's expression went from composed to stunned. "Owner?" she repeated, her voice barely above a whisper. Jonathan gave a slow nod. "Marcus Reed acquired Prestige Motors last month." The silence in the showroom was deafening. Linda took an involuntary step back, her mind scrambling to piece together everything that had just unfolded. She opened her mouth to speak, but no words came out. Marcus watched her carefully, his expression calm yet unreadable. "You know," he said, voice even, "I was about to leave, but I think now we need to have a meeting." Linda swallowed hard, the weight of realization settling heavily on her shoulders. Marcus turned toward Jonathan. "Gather the team. Let's talk about how customers should be treated. Every customer." As the employees filed into the conference room, Linda lingered near the entrance, visibly shaken. Marcus paused beside her. "Perception is a powerful thing," he said, "but sometimes it needs a little adjustment." Linda nodded slightly, still at a loss for words. Marcus gave her a knowing look before walking inside. Today wasn't just another business visit. It was the beginning of a new standard at Prestige Motors. The moment Marcus Reed stepped out of his SUV and onto the lot of Prestige Motors, he knew today was going to be revealing. The sun cast long shadows over the polished exteriors of luxury cars, their sleek designs gleaming under the Arizona heat. Marcus took a deep breath, scanning the dealership that now belonged to him. He had no intention of announcing himself just yet. Dressed in a simple hoodie, worn jeans, and sneakers, he wanted to witness firsthand how the business operated when no one knew the new owner was watching. The showroom was pristine, the scent of fine leather and freshly waxed interiors filling the air. Employees moved about efficiently, some engaged in conversations with clients, others discussing inventory. But not everyone noticed in the same way. A few sales associates cast in brief, uninterested glances before returning to their work. To them, he was just another customer who didn't belong in a place like this. And then there was Linda Brooks, the dealership's manager. She had a sharp presence, her tailored blazer and perfectly pressed slacks reflecting her polished, professional demeanor. Linda had built her career on ensuring only the right type of clients were given attention at Prestige Motors. As Marcus wandered between the rows of high-end vehicles, admiring the craftsmanship, Linda approached with measured confidence. "Excuse me, sir," she said, voice smooth but devoid of warmth. "Are you looking for something specific?" Marcus turned to her, offering a polite smile. "Just browsing. Beautiful cars here." Linda hesitated, eyeing his casual attire. "Yes, they are, but we typically cater to a certain clientele. Buyers who have done their research and are ready to make serious inquiries." Marcus caught the implication immediately. "So, you're saying I don't look like someone who's ready to buy?" His tone was light, but the meaning behind his words was pointed. Linda's expression remained neutral, but the way she gripped her clipboard just a little tighter didn't escape his notice. "I'm simply saying," she continued, "that many of our models require an extensive approval process. If you'd like, I can direct you to a dealership that might have something more in your range." Marcus let her words settle in the space between them. "More in my range." He exhaled slowly, nodding as if considering her suggestion. Then, he casually gestured toward a sleek, charcoal gray convertible near the front. "That one. What's the price tag?" Linda's posture stiffened slightly. "That's one of our top performance models. It starts at just over $200,000. Of course, we require financial verification before." "Before people like me waste your time, right?" Marcus held back the thought, simply giving her an easy smile. "That's a good price. Maybe I should talk to the owner about it." Linda let out a short, amused exhale, as if he had just told a joke. "The owner isn't available for casual visits." Marcus reached into his pocket and pulled out his phone. "That's all right," he said smoothly. "I'll just call them myself." The energy in the room shifted instantly. Linda froze, her polished confidence cracking for the first time. Employees nearby turned their heads, suddenly interested in the conversation. Before she could respond, the showroom doors swung open, and in walked Jonathan Hayes, the regional director. "Marcus, good to see you." Jonathan's voice carried across the room as he strode over, extending his hand. Linda's breath hitched. Her boss knew this man? Marcus shook hands with Jonathan. "Likewise. Thanks for coming so quickly." Jonathan turned to Linda, his expression shifting to something more serious. "I assume you've already met the new owner?" Linda's face drained of color. Her clipboard, once a symbol of her authority, now felt like dead weight in her hands. "Owner?" she repeated weakly. Jonathan nodded. "Marcus Reed acquired Prestige Motors last month. This is his dealership now." A long silence followed. Linda's mouth opened, then closed. She glanced around, seeing that the entire showroom staff was now watching with wide eyes. Marcus took a measured step closer, lowering his voice just enough to make sure only she could hear. "You know," he said with calm precision, "I wasn't planning on making a scene today, but I do believe we need to discuss the culture of this dealership." Linda swallowed hard, nodding stiffly. Jonathan took a step forward, his tone now firm. "Let's gather everyone. I think it's time we set some new expectations around here." As the employees moved toward the conference room, Marcus turned toward Linda one last time. Perception is powerful, he said, but leadership is about more than just perception. It's about action, and that's about to change here. Linda lowered her gaze, realizing that today was not just another day at Prestige Motors. It was the beginning of a new standard. And this time, Marcus Reed was setting the rules. Marcus Reed stood at the head of the Prestige Motors conference room, his hands resting lightly on the table as he scanned the faces of the dealership staff. The tension in the air was thick, a stark contrast to the easy-going, confident chatter that had filled the showroom earlier. Today was about more than just business. It was about setting a new tone. Linda Brooks, the dealership's manager, sat near the middle of the table, her posture stiff, her hands clasped tightly together. The polished confidence she had displayed earlier on the showroom floor was noticeably absent. She wasn't used to being in this position, on the receiving end of a conversation about accountability. At the far end of the table, Jonathan Hayes, the regional director, observed quietly, arms crossed, his sharp gaze flicking between Marcus and the staff. He had seen these moments before, times when leadership was tested, when cultures either changed or stayed stuck in the past. Marcus let the silence hang for a moment before speaking. "Let's start with the obvious," he said, his voice calm but firm. "You all know me now. My name is Marcus Reed, and as of last month, this dealership belongs to me." A ripple of unease moved through the room, a few employees shifting in their seats. Some had already guessed the truth from the earlier scene on the showroom floor, but hearing it stated outright made it real. "I came in today," Marcus continued, "not as an executive in a tailored suit, but as a regular customer. And I was given an experience that left me disappointed." His eyes landed on Linda, who swallowed hard but held his gaze. "This isn't about one person," Marcus clarified, though everyone knew Linda had played a role in what had happened. "This is about the way we treat people, customers, employees, and everyone who steps through those doors." A younger employee near the back cleared his throat hesitantly. "With all due respect, Mr. Reed, we weren't trying to be disrespectful. It's just, well, we're used to a certain kind of customer." Marcus nodded, his expression unreadable. "And what kind of customer is that?" he asked, his voice steady. The employee hesitated. "You know, people who fit the profile of a luxury car buyer." Marcus exhaled slowly, tapping his fingers lightly against the table. "That's the problem," he said. "We assume. We look at someone, and we make a decision before they even speak. We don't listen, we categorize." His gaze swept across the room. "And let's be clear, this isn't just about me. How many potential customers have walked out of here without being given a fair shot? How many deals have we lost because someone didn't fit the profile?" Jonathan, who had remained silent until now, finally spoke. "Marcus is right," he said, "and it's not just about business. It's about reputation. A dealership like Prestige Motors should be known for its service, not for making people feel like they don't belong." Linda took a slow breath, finally finding her voice. "I see where you're coming from," she said carefully, "and I take responsibility for my part in this. But we've operated this way for a long time. Change isn't going to be easy." Marcus studied her for a moment, then nodded. "No, it won't be easy," he agreed. "But it will happen, and it starts now." He straightened and looked around the table. "Here's how we move forward," he continued. "First, every single employee will go through customer service training focused on eliminating bias. Second, we'll be implementing a new standard. Every person who walks through those doors gets the same respect, no exceptions." He let that sink in before adding. "And third, our success will be measured by more than just sales numbers. We'll track customer experience. We'll get feedback. And we'll adjust where needed." Linda's fingers tightened on the table, but she nodded. "I understand." Marcus took a step back and surveyed the room. "I know some of you might be resistant," he admitted, "but Prestige Motors is entering a new era. We either evolve or we get left behind. And I'm here to make sure we evolve." The employees exchanged glances, and though some still looked uncertain, there was an undeniable shift in the air, a quiet acceptance that change was indeed coming. Jonathan clapped a hand on Marcus's shoulder. "This is why you're the right man for the job." Marcus offered a small smile before turning back to Linda. You've been here a long time, he said. I want you to stay. But you have to be willing to change with us. Linda hesitated for only a second before nodding. I'm willing. Marcus extended his hand. Then let's do this the right way. She shook his hand firmly. As the meeting concluded, the employees filtered out their expressions thoughtful. Some whispered among themselves. Others simply absorbed what had just happened. Marcus remained in the room for a moment, looking out the large glass windows of the dealership beyond. He had come in today expecting to observe. Instead, he had set the foundation for something bigger, a culture shift that would define Prestige Motors for years to come. The late afternoon sun cast long shadows across the glossy showroom floor of Prestige Motors. The dealership had always been a symbol of exclusivity, a place where high-end clientele came to find the most luxurious vehicles on the market. But today, Marcus Reed, the dealership's new owner, was focused on something far more important than sales figures. He was here to redefine the culture. Earlier that day, he had experienced firsthand the prejudiced assumptions that shaped customer interactions in his own business. Now, as he sat in his office, reviewing employee reports and customer feedback, he realized that the issue went beyond just one incident. It was ingrained in the way Prestige Motors had been run for years. A soft knock at the door interrupted his thoughts. Jonathan Hayes, the regional director, stepped inside. You ready for this conversation? Jonathan asked, his expression unreadable. Marcus exhaled, setting down his paperwork. More than ready. It's time to change things for good. They walked out together, heading toward the employee meeting that had been scheduled on short notice. Inside the conference room, Linda Brooks, the dealership's manager, stood stiffly by the wall, arms crossed. She was clearly still processing the earlier events in the showroom. Around the long table, the sales team sat in nervous silence, waiting. Marcus took his place at the head of the table, his presence commanding attention. Let's talk about Prestige Motors, he began, his voice calm but firm. For years, this dealership has been known for its exclusivity. But there's a fine line between exclusivity and alienation, and today, I saw that line being crossed. Some employees shifted uncomfortably. Others remained quiet, unsure of where this conversation was going. I want to be clear, Marcus continued. This isn't about calling people out. It's about calling people up to a higher standard. His gaze landed on Linda. Linda, you've been here a long time. You know this business inside and out. What's the most important factor in making a sale? She hesitated before answering. Building trust with the customer. Marcus nodded. Exactly. But how can we build trust if we make judgments before the conversation even begins? Silence. Jonathan leaned forward. We've all seen it happen. Someone walks through those doors, and within seconds, assumptions are made about whether they belong here. And the worst part? Those assumptions cost us business. A young sales associate, Michael, cleared his throat hesitantly. Mr. Reed, are you saying we should change who we sell to? Marcus smiled faintly. No, Michael. I'm saying we should change how we sell. Luxury isn't just about the product. It's about the experience. And right now, we're failing at that. He turned his attention back to Linda. I know you take pride in this dealership, and I want you to keep leading here. But I need to know if you're willing to embrace these changes. Linda pursed her lips, then let out a slow breath. I'll admit, I've done things a certain way for a long time. But I don't want to be the reason this dealership stays stuck in the past. So yes, I'm willing to change. Marcus gave a small nod of approval. Good, because here's what's going to happen next. He gestured to Jonathan, who handed out folders to the employees. Inside those folders, you'll find our new sales philosophy. From now on, every customer who walks through these doors gets the same level of respect, whether they arrive in a three-piece suit or a hoodie. Every salesperson will be retrained and customer interactions will be monitored. And lastly, any employee who is unwilling to embrace this new direction is free to walk away now. No hard feelings. The room was dead silent. No one moved. Then, slowly, a few nods of agreement. One by one, the employees realized that change wasn't a threat. It was an opportunity. Jonathan leaned back in his chair, a smirk playing at the corners of his lips. Well, Marcus, looks like you've got yourself a new dealership culture. Marcus folded his arms, a sense of quiet confidence settling over him. Not just a new culture, Jonathan, a new legacy. The showroom of Prestige Motors had always been a symbol of exclusivity. Luxury cars lined the polished floors, waiting for customers who could afford them. But today, something felt different. The energy had shifted. Marcus Reed, the new owner of the dealership, had seen the hidden truths lurking beneath the showroom's refined exterior, and he was about to change everything. Earlier that day, he had walked into his own dealership in a simple hoodie and jeans, only to be dismissed by Linda Brooks, the showroom manager, who assumed he wasn't worth her time. It had been a revealing moment, one that spoke volumes about how the dealership really operated when no one was watching. Now, standing in front of his assembled team, Marcus was ready to expose the uncomfortable reality they had all ignored for too long. The moment of truth real-life stories shape who we are, Marcus began, his voice calm yet commanding. And today, I want to share one that unfolded right here in this dealership. The employees shifted in their seats. Jonathan Hayes, the regional director, stood nearby, watching silently as Marcus prepared to deliver a lesson they would never forget. I came here today as a customer, Marcus continued, dressed casually, no fanfare, no entourage. And I was met with assumptions, not based on my knowledge, my experience, or my ability to purchase, but on my appearance. A ripple of discomfort spread through the room. Some employees looked away, while others fidgeted uncomfortably. Marcus let the silence linger before speaking again. Now, imagine how many times that has happened before. Imagine how many potential customers walked out of here, not because they couldn't afford a car, but because they weren't treated with respect. The weight of his words hung heavy in the air. Hidden truths and a culture of exclusion. Linda Brooks looked visibly shaken. She had worked at Prestige Motors for years, believing she was upholding its legacy. But in that moment, she realized she had been upholding something else. Exclusion. She cleared her throat, her voice softer than before. Mr. Reed, Marcus held up a hand. Linda, I'm not here to single you out. I'm here to fix a system that has been broken for too long. Jonathan stepped forward. This is bigger than one moment, bigger than one interaction. It's about how we define success. True success doesn't come from selling to a select few. It comes from creating an experience where everyone feels valued. The employees nodded slowly, absorbing the reality of what had been happening under their noses. Justice stories, a chance to do better, incredible stories of redemption, exist because people choose to change, Marcus said. And I believe change starts today. He turned to Linda. Do you want to be part of that change? Linda's jaw tensed, but then she gave a small nod. Yes, I do. Marcus smiled, sensing her sincerity. Then let's move forward together. An amazing story of redemption begins starting next week, Marcus announced. This dealership will operate differently. There will be new training, and new philosophy, and a new standard. Prestige Motors will no longer be a place of exclusivity. It will be a place of excellence for everyone. A murmur spread through the room. This wasn't just a meeting. It was a turning point, a moment in time that would define the future. As the employees filed out, Jonathan turned to Marcus and grinned. You just changed the game. Marcus exhaled, feeling the weight of the day lift slightly. Not just the game, Jonathan. The entire story. Life teaches us that true character is revealed not in moments of comfort, but in times of challenge. We may encounter situations where we are judged unfairly based on appearance, background, or assumptions. However, responding with anger rarely leads to meaningful change. Instead, approaching such moments with patience, dignity, and quiet strength allows us to shift the conversation. Respect is not just something we demand from others. It is something we demonstrate in how we treat people, even those who misunderstand or underestimate us. When faced with prejudice, the most powerful response is not confrontation, but grace and wisdom. By remaining composed and proving our worth through actions, we turn a moment of injustice into an opportunity for reflection and growth. This lesson is especially important as we grow older. Our experiences allow us to lead by example, showing younger generations that true strength lies in self-respect and fairness. When we uphold these values, We not only defend our own dignity, but also inspire others to act with greater kindness and understanding. In the end, the way we treat others defines who we truly are.